During Sarah and Tom's engagement party, laughter and cheers filled the air. Just as they prepared to toast their future, a mysterious girl entered the room and shouted, "I'm your sister." The atmosphere shifted in an instant, leaving Sarah and Tom reeling from the shocking revelation. What had been a celebration turned into a moment of disbelief and confusion. "Hi there. I'm Goldie, and welcome to Goldie's Love Stories." In a quaint town nestled between rolling hills and sprawling vineyards, Sarah and Tom were the epitome of young love. Sarah, a vibrant 28-year-old, worked as a graphic designer, known for her creative flair and unwavering optimism. She was the kind of person who could light up a room with her laughter, her warm brown hair cascading down her shoulders and her bright green eyes reflecting her zest for life. Tom, her fiancé, was a charming 30-year-old architect, passionate about building sustainable homes. He had a chiseled jaw and a genuine smile that could melt anyone's heart. Together, they were a perfect match, their dreams intertwined as they navigated the journey of love and commitment. Having met in college, their relationship blossomed over shared late-night study sessions and weekend hikes. Friends and family often commented on how they complemented each other, like peanut butter and jelly. They had an easy rapport, filled with playful banter and an unbreakable bond. As they stood on the precipice of their future, both Sarah and Tom envisioned a life filled with happiness, adventure, and the pitter-patter of little feet in their cozy home. The engagement party was set in the lush backyard of Sarah's childhood home, a picturesque space adorned with twinkling fairy lights strung between the trees. It was a warm summer evening, the scent of blooming flowers mingling with the delicious aroma of grilled meats and fresh salads wafting through the air. Friends and family gathered around tables decorated with colorful centerpieces, laughter ringing out like music. Sarah wore a flowing pastel-colored dress that danced with a gentle breeze, while Tom sported a tailored suit that accentuated his broad shoulders. As they mingled with their guests, the couple was buoyed by the warmth of love and support surrounding them. They couldn't have been happier. Their hearts were full of excitement and anticipation for their upcoming wedding, just a few months away. As the evening progressed, Sarah's best friend, Lily, raised her glass, calling for everyone's attention. "To Sarah and Tom. May your love continue to grow, and may your journey together be filled with endless joy." Cheers erupted from the crowd, glasses clinking together in celebration. Just as Sarah and Tom prepared to toast, an unexpected commotion interrupted the joyful atmosphere. A girl, seemingly in her early 20s, burst through the gates, her wild curly hair bouncing as she rushed into the garden. Her clothes were slightly disheveled, and her eyes sparkled with an intensity that caught everyone's attention. The music faded, and conversations hushed as guests turned to see who had intruded on this special moment. "Who is that?" Tom whispered to Sarah, his brow furrowing in confusion. "I don't know," Sarah replied, her heart racing. The girl's presence felt jarring, an unsettling break in the joyous atmosphere. The girl paused at the edge of the gathering, taking a moment to catch her breath. The crowd, initially filled with curiosity, shifted to bewilderment. Whispers spread like wildfire. Sarah's heart sank as she tried to process the unexpected disruption. What could this stranger want? "I'm your sister," the girl suddenly shouted, her voice cutting through the silence like a knife. Gasps filled the air as Sarah and Tom exchanged wide-eyed glances, the weight of the revelation crashing down upon them. "What?" Tom stammered, disbelief etched across his face. Sarah felt her heart drop into her stomach. She had never heard of this girl before. Questions flooded her mind, but there was no time for answers. The atmosphere had shifted from jubilant celebration to shocked silence, the revelry replaced by uncertainty and confusion. Friends whispered among themselves, trying to piece together the puzzle while Sarah and Tom stood frozen, grappling with the revelation that threatened to shatter their world. The girl, oblivious to the stunned crowd, took a step closer, her expression a mix of desperation and urgency. "You don't know me, but I've been looking for you both for so long. We need to talk." "What do you mean you're Tom's sister?" Sarah's voice was shaky, her mind racing to comprehend the implications of the girl's words. Tom reached for Sarah's hand, his grip tight as he attempted to anchor both of them amid the chaos. "Who are you? Why are you here?" "I know this is overwhelming, but I promise I'm not here to cause trouble," the girl insisted, her eyes darting around the room. "There's so much you don't know about our family, about what happened before you were born. I'm here to tell you the truth. The words hung in the air, laden with gravity. The reality of the situation settled over the couple like a heavy blanket, their joyous engagement party now a backdrop to an impending storm. In that moment, they realized that their lives were about to change irrevocably. As guests began to murmur and share puzzled looks, Sarah felt her breath quicken. The comfortable bubble of their engagement had burst, leaving a sense of dread in its wake. Her mind raced with thoughts of her parents, of her childhood, and of secrets she had never known existed. "Let's go somewhere private," Tom suggested, his voice steady despite the turmoil. "We need to figure out what this means." As they stepped away from the crowd, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that their perfect life was teetering on the edge of a cliff. The calm before the storm was over, and they were now on a collision course with a truth that could tear their world apart. They found a secluded corner of the venue, away from prying eyes and curious ears. The festive music faded into the background, leaving only the sound of their quickening breaths. Carina stood nervously between them, her eyes darting back and forth as if she were caught between two worlds. "Okay, let's start from the beginning," Tom said, trying to regain control over the spiraling situation. "How do you know my father? And why now?" Carina took a deep breath, her expression earnest. "I was raised by another family. I only recently discovered who my biological father is. I didn't know about you until last week when I saw your engagement announcement online." Sarah's heart raced, the implications of Carina's revelation dawning on her. "What do you mean you found out about him? Was there a reason your family kept it a secret?" Carina hesitated, emotions swirling within her. "My mother always told me my father left before I was born. It wasn't until I found some old letters and photographs that I realized the truth. I had to know for myself. When I saw you were engaged, I thought it was time to come forward." Tom's expression shifted from confusion to disbelief. "So you're saying my father knew about you but never told me?" Carina nodded, her eyes filled with remorse. "I wish I had the answers, but I didn't have a way to reach out. I was just as shocked as you are now." As they stood in silence, Tom's world spun around him. He had built his life based on the foundation of his family's values, and now that very foundation felt like quicksand beneath his feet. "How do I even begin to process this?" he murmured, shaking his head. "Tom, we need to figure this out together," Sarah urged, stepping closer to him. "This doesn't change how we feel about each other, doesn't it?" Tom replied, the hurt in his voice palpable. "How can I marry you knowing my family has hidden something this monumental from me? It makes me question everything." Sarah's heart sank as she watched him grapple with his emotions. "We're about to start our lives together, and yes, it's complicated, but it doesn't mean we can't move forward." Tom turned to Carina, frustration evident in his demeanor. "And what about you? What do you want from this?" Carina's voice was steady, but the tremor in her hands betrayed her anxiety. "I want to get to know my brother. I didn't choose this situation, I just discovered the truth like you did. I don't want to come between you two. I just need you to understand that I didn't know either." The tension in the air was palpable, and Sarah felt the weight of their engagement pressing down on her. How could they proceed with wedding plans when their future was now entangled in a web of secrets and family dynamics? Just then, a thought struck Sarah. What if your father knows about this? What if he's been waiting for the right moment to tell you? Tom's eyes narrowed as the idea took root. "You might be right. I need to confront him. He owes me an explanation." "No," Carina interjected, panic flashing in her eyes. "If he finds out I'm here, he might react poorly. I don't want to cause a rift between you two." "But you've already caused one." Tom shot back, frustration bubbling over. "You can't just walk in here and drop a bombshell without considering the fallout." Tension simmered, and Sarah felt caught in the crossfire. She stepped in, hoping to mediate. "Let's take a moment. Carina, can you give us some space?" Carina nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I understand. Just know that I didn't want to hurt you." She turned to leave, her heart heavy with the burden of being the bearer of bad news. As she walked away, Tom's gaze followed her, a mix of anger and confusion swirling within him. "I can't believe this is happening. We were supposed to be celebrating, not unraveling." The atmosphere had shifted from one of joy to tension and confusion. Sarah felt the weight of Tom's gaze as he turned back to her, 1,000 questions unspoken between them. "What does this mean for us?" he asked, vulnerability seeping into his voice. "I don't know, but we need to face it together. We can't let this destroy what we have," Sarah replied, feeling a sense of urgency. She reached for his hand, hoping to ground him in the midst of chaos. But Tom pulled away, frustration spilling over. "How can you say that when everything is changing? I feel like I don't know who I am anymore." At that moment, a familiar face appeared from the shadows. It was Tom's father, Robert. He had been watching the unfolding drama from a distance, and his expression was unreadable. "Tom," he said, his voice low, "can we talk?" Tom's heart raced, anger bubbling just beneath the surface. "Now? After all this time?" "Please just hear me out," Robert implored, stepping closer. Before Tom could respond, Sarah felt the tension spiral out of control. "You need to tell him the truth. We deserve to know." "Not here, not now," Robert said, his voice rising in urgency. The partygoers had begun to notice the commotion, whispers spreading through the crowd like wildfire. The engagement party was spiraling into chaos, and Sarah felt a chill as she recognized that the very foundation of their future was now hanging by a thread. As Tom stood there, torn between loyalty to his father and the desire for truth, the moment hung in the air like a loaded gun, ready to fire. The truth was out there, but could they handle it? In that moment, everything seemed to converge. Tom turned to his father, determination etched on his face. "You have to tell me everything. No more secrets." Robert's expression shifted, and he nodded, realizing the gravity of the moment. "Okay, let's talk. But not here." Tom glanced at Sarah, who stood silently beside him, her heart racing. She was scared of the fallout, but knew they had to face whatever lay ahead together. As they moved toward a more private area of the venue, Sarah felt a sense of dread wash over her. The engagement party had transformed into a battleground, where secrets and revelations would clash, and the consequences would shape their lives forever. The stakes had never been higher, and as they entered the private room, Sarah knew that their relationship was about to be tested in ways they had never imagined. Would they come out stronger, or would the weight of the past crush their future? The room was tense, the air thick with unspoken words and unprocessed emotions. Tom stood facing his father, arms crossed, the look on his face a mixture of determination and disbelief. Sarah felt her heart race as she glanced between them, the magnitude of the situation weighing heavily on her. "All right, Dad. Let's hear it," Tom said, his voice firm yet laced with an underlying tremor. Robert took a deep breath, the weight of years of silence pressing on his shoulders. "I didn't want to tell you this. I thought it would be best to protect you from the truth, but I see now that it was a mistake." Tom's expression hardened. "You've already done enough damage. Just tell me how I have a sister I never knew about." Robert glanced at Sarah, his eyes filled with regret. "Your mother and I had a complicated marriage, and I made mistakes. I had an affair years ago, and from that, Carina was born. I didn't find out until after she was born, and by then, it was too late." The room was silent, each person processing the weight of Robert's confession. "I wanted to protect you from that part of my life. I thought if I kept it a secret, you wouldn't have to bear the burden," he continued, his voice heavy with sorrow. Tom felt the world tilt beneath him. "So you let me grow up believing I was an only child, never knowing I had a sister out there?" "I never knew how to approach the subject. I was ashamed," Robert admitted, his gaze dropping to the floor. Sarah, watching the emotional storm swirl between them, felt compelled to step in. "Tom, this doesn't change who you are. It doesn't change how we feel about each other. We can figure this out together." "But can we really?" Tom replied, his voice strained. "How do I process this? I feel betrayed by the people I love." Carina, who had been lingering outside the door, took a tentative step into the room. "I know this is a lot to take in, but I didn't come here to ruin your lives. I just want to understand my family, to know my brother. Can't we start from here?" Tom turned to face her, the hurt and confusion still evident in his eyes. "You don't know what it's like to grow up not knowing the truth, to have it thrown at you during what should have been the happiest moment of my life." Carina nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "You're right. I didn't ask for any of this, but I promise I want to build a relationship with you. I just found out about you two." As the three of them stood together, the reality of their shared history began to settle in. It would take time, patience, and understanding to bridge the gaps created by years of secrets. Tom took a deep breath, exhaling slowly as he looked at his father. "I need to think. We all do. But I can't pretend this isn't a part of my life now. We have to figure out what family means." "I understand," Robert said, his voice softening. "I want to be there for you both, to help make this right." As they began to talk through their feelings and the complexities of their newfound family dynamics, Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her. Though the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, they were all willing to face it together. A few weeks later, the engagement party had turned into a family reunion of sorts. Tom and Sarah had taken some time to process everything, allowing their relationship to grow stronger amidst the chaos. They decided to postpone the wedding, knowing they needed to address the complexities of their new family before making any commitments. Carina became a regular presence in their lives, slowly building a bond with Tom. They started sharing stories of their childhoods, bonding over their shared genetics and the experiences they had missed out on. Each conversation helped heal the wounds of the past, and Sarah found herself growing closer to Carina as well, as they shared their own experiences as women navigating their respective relationships. Tom's relationship with his father gradually improved, as they worked to rebuild the trust that had been shattered. Robert made efforts to include both of his children in his life, attending events together and creating new memories that honored the family they could now be. He apologized repeatedly for the past and worked to show his children that they were loved, regardless of the circumstances that had separated them. On a warm summer evening, Tom and Sarah stood at the edge of the lake, the sun setting behind them in a cascade of oranges and pinks. He turned to her, the love in his eyes shining brighter than before. "I never thought I'd say this, but I'm grateful for Carina. I didn't know I needed that connection." "Me too," Sarah replied, reaching for his hand. "It's amazing how life can change in an instant. We've come through so much together." "Let's make sure we never go back to secrets," Tom said, his grip tightening around her hand. "I want a future built on trust." "And love," Sarah added, smiling up at him. As they embraced, they felt a new sense of hope for their future, a future where they would no longer be burdened by hidden truths, but instead could forge a new path as a family, stronger than before. In that moment, they understood that life would continue to throw challenges their way, but together, they could face anything. The journey ahead would be filled with ups and downs, but as long as they had each other, they would find a way to navigate through. With their hearts open and their love rekindled, Tom and Sarah walked hand in hand, ready to embrace whatever the future had in store for them. Thanks for watching. How would you rate this story? Give it 1 to 5 stars in the comments and let me know what you thought. This is a brand new channel, and your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed the story, please consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you never miss an episode. Your likes, comments, and shares help this community grow, and I'd be so grateful to have you along for the journey. See you next time.